My name is Helen, and I'm 56 years old. I don't remember the last time I trusted someone completely. Not since the day I watched my own sister and her husband walk out of my life with everything I'd ever saved. It all started at our family reunion. Everyone came, even the ones who usually had some excuse. Laughter, barbecue smoke, kids running barefoot. It felt like something out of a memory I didn't know I missed. And then she appeared, Samantha, my little sister. Perfect smile. Hair like she stepped out of a magazine, that familiar perfume she always wore too strong. Beside her stood Mark, her husband, polished shoes, two white teeth, eyes that smiled too fast. They hadn't come to a reunion in over 5 years. "Look at you, Helen," Samantha beamed, hugging me like we were close. "I told Mark we had to come this year. I had this feeling," she said, holding my hands tight. That feeling was greed. I didn't know it then, but that weekend would cost me everything. And I mean everything. My home, my savings, my peace of mind. I had worked for decades. No luxury, no shopping sprees, just discipline. Every bonus went into investments. Every spare dollar into savings. My only mistake? Letting love and memories blind me. Because what Samantha and Mark did to me wasn't just theft. It was betrayal, layered with mockery. And the worst part? They laughed. They actually laughed. Right before everything fell apart. The reunion was held at my brother's farmhouse, an old, creaking beauty on the edge of the valley. Fields rolled out like a green sea, and the scent of grilled meat drifted over us like a promise. Everyone brought something. I brought potato salad and a pie I made from scratch. Samantha brought stories, big ones. She and Mark had just gotten back from a business trip abroad. "Investment consulting," she said, sipping her sparkling water with a smug smile. "Private capital, Helen. You wouldn't believe the opportunities we've seen." Mark chimed in. "If we hadn't gotten in on that tech fund last year, we'd still be budgeting like normal people." They laughed. I smiled politely, nodding. Inside, I felt small. I wore the same sandals I'd had for 5 summers. Still drove the same 10-year-old sedan. "Look at this, Helen," Samantha said, pulling up something on her tablet. Graphs, returns, numbers that made my stomach flip. She leaned in closer. "You've always been so smart with your money, but you're missing out, sis." Mark added, "Exactly. You've saved well. Now, let your money work for you." The words echoed. Let your money work for you. I knew better. But something about the way they spoke, the certainty in their tone, made me question everything. That night, Mark and I sat on the porch. He talked numbers, interest, compound growth, diversification. He made it sound like common sense, like I was behind just because I hadn't been invited into the club sooner. And when he said, "We'd never let you lose, Helen." "Your family," I believed him. God help me, I believed him. They didn't ask for the money right away. That was the genius of it. No pressure, just stories. Mark showed me statements, returns that looked almost unreal. "Started with just 10,000, he whispered one morning. "Now we're at almost 400. He made me feel like I'd missed a train that only came once in a lifetime. Back home, I kept thinking. I couldn't sleep. Every number I'd saved over the years, every investment I'd researched. Suddenly, it felt small, slow, safe in all the wrong ways. A week after the reunion, Samantha called me. "I've been thinking about you," she said. "Mark and I talked. We want to open a private account just for you, but we have to move fast. There's a deadline." A deadline. Of course there was. How much are we talking? I asked, my voice shaking. Well, how much do you have saved? She asked casually, as if asking about leftover groceries. I hesitated, then I told her. She gasped. Helen, that's amazing. That could become millions. You're right on the edge. And then came the hook. Just wire it to our joint investment account. We'll handle everything. I paused. You sure this is safe? Safer than the banks, Mark said when he joined the call. You think your bank manager knows what he's doing with your future? I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I transferred the money, all of it, my savings, my inheritance from Mom, even my emergency fund, gone in a single click. They called me that night, laughing, drinking champagne. We're officially investment partners now, Samantha said, giggling. I wanted to believe her, but something in her laugh sounded wrong. A week went by, then 2. No updates. I called Samantha, no answer. Texted Mark, delivered, no reply. I told myself they were busy, maybe traveling again, but doubt had already started to dig into me like rust. By week 3, I drove to their house. It was empty. Not just empty, cleared out. Blinds drawn, furniture gone, mailbox overflowing. I stood on their porch for almost 15 minutes, heart pounding in my chest. Then I drove to the address listed on the account they gave me. There was no office, just an empty building with a for lease sign. I sat in my car, hands trembling. That night, I called the number again. Finally, Mark picked up. Where are you? I asked, my voice cracking. He laughed. Sis, relax. Investments take time. That was everything I had. There was silence. Then he said, calm as ever? Then maybe you shouldn't have given it so easily. Click. The line went dead. I fell to the floor of my kitchen, knees buckling under the weight of what I'd done. I stared at the ceiling for hours, not even crying. Just empty. The next morning, I called the police, then the bank, then an attorney. But I already knew. The money was gone, transferred, scattered through accounts I couldn't trace. My sister had blocked me. No calls, no texts, nothing. I walked into my bedroom and looked at the photo of us as children. 2 little girls in matching dresses. One of them had destroyed the other. And for what? Luxury? Pride? Or just the thrill of seeing someone fall? I whispered, God, what did I do to deserve this? And somewhere in the silence, I felt him answer, not with blame, but with stillness. 3 months later, I was packing up my apartment. I couldn't afford the rent anymore. Bills had piled up like bricks on my chest. My credit cards were maxed and the banks wouldn't give me another loan. All because I trusted family. Then came the letter. No return address, just my name in Samantha's handwriting. Inside was a photo, her and Mark. Sunset, beach, cocktails in hand. And on the back, in red ink. Still think being the smart one matters? I dropped the photo like it burned. They hadn't just stolen from me. They wanted me to know they enjoyed it. I sat there shaking, but something inside me shifted. I remembered a verse my grandmother once whispered when I was little. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That night, I pulled out every file I had. Emails, texts, account numbers, the fake contracts they'd sent me. I made a list of every lie, every transfer. And I started calling. Lawyers, investigators, financial crime units. One woman, a sharp investigator named Carla, called me back. You're not the first, she said flatly. but you might be the first with everything documented." My hands trembled. "You mean they've done this before?" "Oh, yes. And if you're ready to fight, I can help you build a case that will bring them down." For the first time in weeks, I felt my breath return. I had lost my money, but I hadn't lost my voice. Not yet. And if God was still with me, maybe, just maybe, they hadn't laughed last. Carla moved fast. She helped me file charges: fraud, embezzlement, wire theft. She linked Samantha and Mark to 3 other victims, all family or close friends. Each one had lost thousands, but none of them had spoken up. "I was too ashamed," one of them told me on a call. "I couldn't believe I let them fool me." I understood that too well. Shame eats at you quietly. Meanwhile, Carla uncovered their financial trail: fake business names, shell accounts in foreign banks, a lifestyle built on deception, greed, and manipulation. But we had enough. A warrant was issued. Mark was arrested first at an airport. He was trying to board a flight to a country with no extradition. Samantha was harder to find. She'd changed her name, dyed her hair, started calling herself an investor and life coach. But they caught her 2 weeks later, hiding in a short-term rental under an alias. I wasn't there when they took her in, but Carla sent me a photo. Samantha in cuffs, head down, face pale. I stared at that image for a long time. It didn't make me feel better. It didn't bring the money back, but it gave me something else: justice. In court, she didn't even look at me, not once. Mark pled guilty. Samantha tried to fight it, claimed it was all his doing. But the paper trail spoke louder. They were sentenced. Years behind bars. Some money was recovered, not all, but enough to start over. After the trial, I walked out of the courthouse and breathed the cold air like it was brand new. I was still standing, still breathing, and they were behind me now. Maybe not forever, but for long enough. I moved into a smaller place, a 1-bedroom unit with thin walls and a leaky faucet. But it was mine. No one could take it. No one could pretend to love me while stealing my soul. I got a job at a local hardware store. Not glamorous, but honest. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise, tied my apron, and reminded myself, you're not what you lost. You're what you build next. At night, I started cooking again. Not because I had to, but because it brought me peace. Sautéed onions, warm soup, a quiet kitchen. I was rebuilding, one recipe at a time. I joined a church group on Thursdays. Mostly women around my age, some widowed, some divorced, some just tired. One evening, I shared my story, told them everything. When I finished, no one looked away. No one judged. One woman, soft-spoken and silver-haired, took my hand and said, "You're still rich, Helen. Maybe not in money, but in strength, in truth." She squeezed my hand, and in the eyes of God, that counts more than gold. I cried that night, not out of grief, but relief. I had spent my life trying to be smart, to save, to prepare, but I had forgotten something deeper: faith. Trust in something bigger than banks or bonds or balance sheets. And every step I took now, every smile from a customer, every casserole I shared with the women at church, reminded me that I was healing, not all at once, but slowly, faithfully, and somehow that felt like the real wealth. Months passed, life settled into a rhythm. But one morning, I received a letter from the prison. No return address, just my name. Again. Inside, a folded piece of paper. One line, handwritten in shaky script. I didn't know how to stop him. It was from Samantha. No apology. No explanation. just a quiet confession of weakness. I held the paper for a long time. I thought about writing back, demanding the truth, the money, the years she stole. But I didn't. I went to church that night instead. The pastor spoke about forgiveness, not as something you give because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. I sat there with that paper still in my purse, and I realized Samantha might never be sorry. She might never be the sister I loved, but I didn't need to carry her chain anymore. After the service, I walked out into the cold air, looked up at the stars, and whispered, "I forgive you." Not because it was easy, not because she asked, but because I needed space inside me for joy again. That night, I made a decision. I would open a community class. Financial survival for women over 40. I started small. 6 women in the church basement, some of them barely scraping by, all of them scared of banks, investments, numbers. But when I shared my story, they listened, really listened. And one of them said, "Helen, if you went through that and came out stronger, maybe I can too." I smiled. That's when I knew. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning again. But this time, on my terms.